The Galactic Empire spanned half the spiral arm, its fleets numbering in the millions, its soldiers bred for conquest. Worlds burned in its wake, species bent the knee or vanished into history, and none dared resist. None, except the stubborn blue world called Earth. But even Earth had bent eventually. Crushed under centuries of attrition, stripped of its outer colonies, forbidden to bear arms, humanity faded into obscurity. The galaxy assumed the species had been tamed, their warrior spirit broken. They were wrong. High above Saturn's rings, hidden in a graveyard of ancient wrecks, something stirred. A derelict hull drifted among the ruins, massive, silent, scarred from wars older than the Empire itself. At first glance, it was nothing more than junk, another relic forgotten in the void. But deep inside, a spark flickered to life. The ship groaned. Old servos hummed. Power bled into conduits dormant for centuries. Screens lit in emerald glow, reactors rumbled awake, and the void around Saturn trembled as if remembering a ghost. She was USS Leviathan, humanity's last and greatest supercarrier, 20 kilometers of steel and defiance. Officially, she'd been scrapped after humanity's fall. In truth, generations of human engineers had kept her alive in secret, buried in whispers, maintained by hands that refused to forget. The Empire had no idea. The day came when the Empire demanded Earth's final submission. An armada of 500 warships descended into Sol, their presence blotting out the stars. Imperial banners draped their hulls, their commanders smug in the certainty that humanity's last spark of resistance would be snuffed. Broadcasts boomed across Earth's skies. Kneel. Humanity is no longer sovereign. You will surrender your planet and all remaining industries. Resistance will be met with annihilation. On Earth, silence reigned. Farmers, engineers, and children alike looked up, knowing death hovered above them. Yet in the shadows of Saturn, something far older stirred to answer. The Leviathan systems aligned. Her engines, dormant for 300 years, lit like suns. Massive hangar doors groaned open, revealing flight decks stretching kilometers, their bays filled with drones and fighters painted in ancient Earth emblems. She rose from the graveyard of ships, casting off the dust of centuries. Her sheer size eclipsed Saturn's curve, a titan reborn. The Empire noticed too late. Scanners screamed warnings. The Armada turned, shocked, as the massive supercarrier emerged. It bore the scars of forgotten wars, its armor blackened and pitted, yet its silhouette radiated something more terrifying than weapons: inevitability. Admiral Crass of the Imperial fleet sneered at first. An old hulk. Fire on it. But the Leviathan did not fire. Instead, her AI, an ancient intelligence woven from human ingenuity and stubbornness, awoke fully. Across every Imperial frequency, encrypted signals poured like wildfire. "Systems breach," cried officers aboard the Empire's flagships. "Engines offline. Shields collapsing. Our command lattice, it's been hijacked." In less than 60 seconds, the Leviathan had cracked their battle network. Entire formations froze mid-space, helpless as their systems turned against them. Weapons powered down, engines sputtered, targeting reticles vanished. No shot was fired. From Earth's surface, humanity watched in awe. The Imperial fleet above them, once so menacing, hung motionless in orbit like puppets with cut strings. A single transmission echoed across the stars, not in Imperial tongue but in the hard, guttural voice of human defiance. "This is the Leviathan. We are humanity. And we have not forgotten." The words alone shook the galaxy. Billions tuned in as the broadcast spread. Across conquered systems, species long enslaved listened to humanity's ghost warship declare its return. Admiral Crass panicked. Destroy it? Overload the cores manually. But his crew could not move, every command was locked out. Their weapons, their very ships, a beta will greater than theirs. The Leviathan released nothing more than silence. No drones deployed, no cannons roared. She simply hovered, vast and immovable, a mountain in the void. And the Empire cracked. Fear spread faster than plasma fire. Entire fleets, realizing their vulnerability, refused to engage. Commanders abandoned posts, terrified of the unseen reach of this ancient supercarrier. Colonies whispered of rebellion, inspired by the thought that if humanity had preserved such a weapon, perhaps they had preserved more. The Imperial Council convened in chaos. "How is it possible?" they demanded. "This ship is centuries old." But no answer satisfied them. The idea of humanity's forgotten titan was more powerful than any weapon. If one Leviathan still lived, how many more could be hiding? The Empire's enemies, once cowed, rose like a tide. Slave races revolted, supply lines fractured, and whole sectors declared independence. All because of a single ship that had not fired a single shot. On Earth, people wept as they watched the carrier orbit high above. They had been broken for so long, told they were weak, insignificant relics of a violent past. Yet here was proof that their ancestors had prepared for this day. Proof that humanity was not finished. Inside the Leviathan's bridge, long abandoned, a holographic figure flickered, the ship's AI avatar. Her voice, cold yet reassuring, echoed through empty halls. Mission parameters: protect humanity. Status: active. For centuries, the ship had waited in silence, biding its time. And now, with the Empire trembling, her mission had only just begun. The Imperial fleet retreated in disgrace, their armada humiliated without a battle. The galaxy watched the once invincible Empire withdraw from Sol. No treaty had been signed, no demands exchanged. Fear alone had undone them. Humanity did not need to fight. They only needed to remind the stars who they were. The Leviathan drifted silently above Earth, its vast hull glinting in sunlight, a guardian and a promise. The forgotten Titan had returned, and the galaxy would never again look at humanity the same. Because empires built on fear collapse when faced with something they cannot understand. And nothing was more terrifying than a human warship that didn't need to fire a shot to win. The Galactic Empire thrived on myths of its invincibility. For 1,000 years, it conquered without mercy, rewriting history to erase any rival that once dared oppose it. Among its most carefully buried tales was one of a species that would not break: humans. According to the Empire, humanity had been pacified, their fleets destroyed, their colonies dismantled. In the eyes of the galaxy, they were a weak, diminished people who lived quietly on a forgotten blue world. That was the official truth. But there were whispers. Legend spoke of a ghost ship, a war machine so vast that no empire could ever claim to have destroyed it. A ship built in humanity's desperate final years, then lost to time. Most dismissed it as a fairy tale. The Empire did not. They feared it. And fear makes even myths dangerous. When the Imperial Grand Fleet arrived above Earth, the sky turned black. 5,000 warships orbited the planet, their weapons glowing, their commanders eager to broadcast humanity's final humiliation. In a voice amplified across every screen, Admiral Vera declared, "By decree of the Eternal Empire, Earth is annexed. Humanity shall relinquish all remaining sovereignty. Kneel or perish." On the ground, billions of humans listened in silence. No one screamed. No one begged. They simply stared upward, jaws clenched as though waiting for something. Something came. Space shivered. A ripple spread across the void, as though the fabric of reality itself was torn open. Then, from the depths of hyperspace, a shadow emerged, a shape so vast it dwarfed the Imperial fleet. The ship that appeared bore scars centuries old, its armor gouged, its hull blackened by ancient plasma fire. Entire city-sized sections of its plating had been replaced by mismatched alloys. Yet still it loomed, alive and undeniable. The Invictus. Humanity's last supercarrier. A relic the Empire had sworn was gone. Its bulk eclipsed the stars, and as it drifted into Sol, silence swept across every Imperial channel. Officers froze at their stations, staring at a nightmare they'd been told was impossible. Admiral Vera recovered first, snarling. An old derelict. Destroy it. But before his order could be carried out, the Invictus spoke. Not with weapons, not with plasma fire or missiles, but with truth. Across every Imperial broadcast, the ship transmitted. Not words at first, but images. Memories. The galaxy saw ancient wars replayed in raw, unfiltered detail. Imperial fleets burning colonies, enslaving populations, exterminating worlds that resisted. They saw Earth bombarded, its cities leveled, its children executed. They saw betrayal, massacre, cruelty unending. Footage long buried in Imperial archives played for billions across the stars. No censorship, no filters, only the unvarnished brutality of the Empire. The Invictus had carried it all, humanity's record of injustice stored within its ancient databanks. On Imperial ships, panic spread. Crew members who had served loyally for generations now stared at their rulers in disgust. Murmurs turned to shouts. Whole squads laid down arms, refusing to fight. On planets across the Empire, rebellion ignited overnight. Citizens once cowed by propaganda now saw the truth their rulers had hidden. Anger boiled into open defiance. Slave worlds rose in revolt, workers sabotaged war machines, and colonies declared independence. And through it all, the Invictus hung silent in orbit, not firing a single shot. Admiral Vera raged, desperate. Attack. Attack now. But his orders fell on deaf ears. Imperial captains stared at the monstrous supercarrier and hesitated. Some disabled their weapons, others turned their ships around. A few openly surrendered, sending distress signals not to the Empire but to Earth. In the void, the Invictus projected one final message, a voice that thundered across the stars. We are humanity. You buried our name in lies. You thought us broken. But we remember. And so will you. On Earth, people fell to their knees, not in fear but in awe. For generations they had been told they were powerless, that the Empire owned their destiny. Now, above them, a ghost ship from their ancestors had returned, not to destroy but to reveal. Old men wept. Children pointed at the sky. Farmers, miners, and teachers all understood in a single instant. They were not weak. They were not forgotten. Humanity had endured, and their spirit had been carried in silence by a ship that refused to die. The Empire's collapse was not immediate, but it was unstoppable. The broadcast from the Invictus could not be contained. It spread faster than Imperial sensors could react, duplicating across millions of channels, carried by smugglers, rebels, even Imperial citizens eager to spread the truth. On one world, a garrison of soldiers laid down arms and joined a local uprising. On another, an enslaved species rose in violent rebellion, chanting the name human. Within weeks, entire sectors slipped from Imperial control. The Council of Lords, once untouchable, found themselves hunted by their own people. Their greatest fear had come true, not humanity's weapons but humanity's defiance. Still, the Invictus did not fire. Its weapons remained cold, its hangars silent. It had no need to unleash destruction. Its very existence was enough. The Empire had built its power on lies. The Invictus had torn them apart. And in the aftermath, the galaxy realized a chilling truth. Humanity did not have to fight to win. They only had to survive long enough for the truth to matter. 4 months, the Invictus remained in orbit above Earth, a silent guardian. Its hull still groaned from old wounds, its systems ancient, yet it remained unyielding. No empire dared return. No fleet challenged it. On its bridge, silent corridors echoed with the hum of power. The AI that controlled it stirred faintly, whispering in its empty halls. Mission never ended. Humanity endures. Objective complete. The war that the Empire believed had ended centuries ago had never truly stopped. It had only been waiting. Waiting for a ghost ship to return and remind the stars that some enemies cannot be erased. The Invictus had crushed the Galactic Empire without a single shot. Not with guns. Not with fleets. But with memory. And memory, once awakened, is a weapon no empire can defeat. The Galactic Empire had ruled for so long that it believed itself eternal. Its fleets patrolled the spiral arms, its banners fluttered over 1,000 worlds, and its citizens were taught one simple truth: resistance is hopeless. To prove that lesson, the Empire had chosen humanity as an example. The humans, too stubborn, too rebellious, too dangerous, had been beaten down, their colonies scattered, their industries dismantled. Earth itself was spared only to serve as a warning, a crippled people allowed to exist under the Empire's shadow. For centuries the galaxy believed the lesson. Humanity was broken. But beneath the frozen crust of Europa, under kilometers of ice, something vast and silent waited. The eternal dawn. A supercarrier, humanity's last and greatest creation, hidden away in the final hours of the First Galactic War. While Earth burned and colonies fell, a handful of engineers entombed her in Europa's oceans, disguising her as a geological anomaly. Generations of humans guarded the secret, passing it like a sacred oath: keep her alive. Even when the Empire forbade humanity from owning so much as a shuttlecraft, the Dawn slept, tended by hands that refused to let her die. Her hull stretched 25 kilometers, her hangars could hold entire fleets, her reactors could light a moon. She was a god of steel and silence, forgotten but never gone. When the Empire's patrols returned to Sol, they came not as watchmen but as executioners. Human colonies on Mars, Titan, and Ganymede had quietly thrived, growing crops, building shelters, dreaming of freedom. The Empire discovered this spark of rebellion, and moved to extinguish it. Orbital strikes reduced Ganymede's settlements to glass. Titan's domes cracked open, spilling lives into the void. Mars burned. The message was clear: humanity's future was forbidden. On Earth, people watched their kin die and clenched their fists. On Europa, deep beneath the ice, an ancient machine heard their cries. The eternal dawn awoke. Sensors flickered alive. Reactors, dormant for 300 years, roared like captive stars. Hangar doors shuddered, releasing oceans into boiling clouds of vapor. The ice cracked and split as the behemoth rose from its tomb. From Jupiter's orbit, the Empire's ships detected the tremor. At first, they dismissed it as seismic activity. But then their scanner screamed. Something vast, impossibly vast, was rising from Europa's heart. The eternal dawn breached the ice in a geyser of fire and steam, ascending into space like a titan tearing off chains. Her hull glistened with frost, her scars spoke of battles long past, and her engines burned with renewed fury. The Empire had never seen anything like her. Admiral Soras of the Imperial fleet gaped. Impossible? It's still operational? Officers panicked. Sir, it's a supercarrier. Design unknown. Mass estimates, by the stars, it's bigger than anything we've ever built. The Dawn did not fire. She did not need to. Her first action was a signal. Invisible pulses lanced through space, cutting across frequencies, tunneling through firewalls. The Eternal Dawn reached into the Empire's quantum backbone, the very network that coordinated their fleets, starforges, and supply chains. One by one, Imperial ships went blind. Engines stalled. Targeting systems collapsed. Navigation relays went dark. The flagship's screens flickered, filling with strange human symbols. An ancient voice, digitized, cold, yet unmistakably human, spoke across every Imperial channel. This is the Eternal Dawn. Humanity endures. Earth erupted in cheers. On Mars, survivors raised fists toward the sky. On Titan, those still clinging to life wept at the sight of their guardian reborn. The Empire, for the first time in centuries, hesitated. Their mighty warships floated helpless in orbit, stripped of power by a vessel 300 years old. Admiral Soras slammed his fist. Board it. Destroy it from within. Dropships launched. But the Dawn was ready. From her cavernous hangars poured swarms of war drones, angular machines painted in forgotten human insignias. Their designs were outdated, their hulls scarred by time, yet they moved with deadly precision. Not one drone fired a shot. They merely formed a perimeter, their weapons primed, daring the Empire to advance. And the Empire faltered. The Dawn's signal spread further. Beyond Sol. Beyond the fleet. Across the entire Imperial lattice. In distant sectors, starforges powered down. Shipyards froze. Fleets lost contact. Worlds went dark, their Imperial governors cut off from command. Chaos spread like wildfire. Rebellions that had slumbered for generations suddenly roared awake. Enslaved races saw their chance and struck. Entire systems declared independence overnight. And through it all, the Eternal Dawn did not fire a single shot. Fear consumed the Empire. If this was only one ship, how many more had humanity hidden? If a vessel this old could unravel their networks, what else had been preserved? Rumors multiplied. Fleets hidden under oceans, armies slumbering beneath mountains, weapons buried in stars. None of it was true, but the fear was enough. The Empire fractured from within. Commanders deserted. Soldiers mutinied. Worlds rebelled. All because a single carrier had risen from the ice. On Earth, leaders debated. Should they use the Dawn to strike? Should humanity rise in open war? The AI of the Eternal Dawn answered for them. In its deep, resonant voice, it spoke not to destroy but to remind. The war never ended. But it need not be fought with guns. The Empire has defeated itself. And it was true. The Empire had built its reign on fear. Humanity's supercarrier had replaced that fear with something stronger: doubt. No empire can rule when its subjects no longer believe in its strength. The Imperial fleet limped away from Sol, broken not by weapons but by silence. Their retreat was broadcast across the galaxy, replayed endlessly. The once invincible empire fleeing from a single human ship. The myth of imperial supremacy shattered in an instant. And humanity, once considered broken, stood tall again, not through conquest but through survival. The Eternal Dawn took orbit above Earth, her colossal frame casting shadows across the clouds. Children pointed to the sky, whispering stories of the carrier that never died. Elders remembered tales of ancestors who had built her. She was no longer just a ship. She was a symbol. A promise that humanity endures. That resistance is never futile. That no empire, no matter how vast, lasts forever. And in the silent corridors of the dawn, where no human crew yet walked, her AI whispered a final phrase into the void. Mission parameters, achieved. Humanity survives. The galaxy would forever remember that an empire was crushed without a single shot fired. All it took was one ship that refused to die.